guys, welcome back to Two Guys and Hockey Talk. This is season 4, episode 20, man. 20. REV the Cat. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm wonderful, Lemon. How are you?
Well, I am jacked for tonight's show because we're going to get to talk to one of our returning guests, Sean Fiery, who is a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. He's just waiting in the back room to come out. No, he's not in the back room because he's been bad. He's waiting to come on as our special guest here today.
Is this his smoke room? Is that what it is?
He's taking a smoke break from the long trip he came back, and he's going to update us on a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. Plus, I have some different stuff that we're going to talk about. We'll surprise him with a few questions maybe around the NHL and stuff like that. Hey, how has your week gone? You look like you just woke up.
What are you talking about? This is stylish. This is what all the kids are doing. I know that you're covering up whatever bit of hair you think you have, or with that Vancouver cap, and that's not helping your situation. But this is beautiful. This works for me. I mean, you guys can comment if it doesn't, then that's fine. You can make fun of me. Maybe I do look like I got a mop on my head, but I'm doing well. Things are going well.
Awesome.
It's been busy. It's a little chilly in the city. We'll talk about Sean when his time in the city in Edmonton. Remember to give us a like, share, subscribe, and follow. We're on every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're partnered up with Sports Empire. Give them a follow. Give them a shout. They got all that great content. And, we look forward to it. And we have a couple of big things coming up, Evan. Do you want to talk about those things?
So just quickly, I just want to mention next week we have the past president of the Chilliwack Chiefs. Was it the Chiefs, of the WHL. He helped bring them in. Also past president of the British Columbia Lions of the CFL, and former vice president of the Vancouver Canucks, who worked with both Brian Burke and Pat Quinn, will be on our show next week, Glenn Ringdale. So make sure you tune in and book it next week. All right.
We keep bringing these people on. Do they not know what show this is? Because you're on it.
I'll tell you what. Ready? Let's bring them in and you can introduce them.
All right.
Here we go.
Welcome, Sean Fiery. How you doing, Sean?
Hey, guys. Doing great. Pavel, I heard that bald comment you were giving Evan about, shit about just about 3 seconds ago. It's okay. We got our hats on, just you'll lose it someday soon. It's okay.
Oh, okay. So this is why I'm growing it out, so that I know it comes off and chunks throughout the year. But,
yeah.
So you were out in Alberta. How was your trip? You did a little bit of a West Coast tour. Are you a rep for the Tampa Bay Lightning team? I know you met a few of them.
Yeah. No, it was good. I exchanged the hat for a beanie when I was out there in Canada, but apparently it was like short sleeve T-shirt and shorts weather, according to you Canadians. I was a little chilly myself, but no, it was a great trip. And yeah, I'm excited to talk more about it. I got a chance to meet some of the players. I got a signed puck. My team didn't win either one of the games, but it was a great trip.
Okay, so let's just get this clear. So this year, you've made 1 trip, 2 trips. What have you done so far this year?
Yeah, so this year in 2023, so prior to going to Canada last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, I was in St. Louis. So that was 3 games this year. I'm staying close to home for 1 coming up, and then I got 1 in Vegas in February. So
sweet.
So yeah, 4 arenas after this year.
Okay, so why don't you walk us through? Because not everybody. So just for those viewers, a lot of you are coming in. So some of our highest states in the United States for followers actually are out of Nevada, Florida, California, Pennsylvania, and New York. So you're the states that seem to be following us here at Two Guys More So, as well as we get people in Europe. So not everybody knows where you were. Maybe give us a little idea of where you went and your experience, because you hit Alberta, Canada, I believe.
Yeah, so it's crazy. I realized I was on this show literally a year to this day this last year. So it's crazy. I've known you guys for now almost a year at this point.
And you're still a friend and want to be on the show? Wow.
I'm back again. So yeah, anytime you guys want me, hey, like I said, you guys are coming down to Arizona, let me know. But yeah, so like I said, I did, to your point, did 3 arenas this year so far, up to number 17. So in the last about 5 years, I've done 14 different arenas, ranging from Dallas to Florida to Anaheim to Washington. So all over, Chicago, Boston, all over the place. And so, yeah, it was just finally, this was the first time up to Canada covering this trip up to Alberta. Where the Lightning won the cup in 2020. So it was a little nostalgic, little cry moment for me over there, bud.
So, hey, just a heads up, Sean. So Zylstra, who does a lot of trucking through the States, actually just was at the Mullet Arena the other day watching the shellacking of the Blues. So she just mentioned she's down in Arizona, down your way tonight.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to maybe go to that. I had some buddies from St. Louis, and they were like, let's go to the game. And I was like, I'm going to wait till the Lightning are in town. But I hear it's an awesome venue, and I'm excited to be there. And I go out next week. Yeah, 2 weeks from now.
All right. Well, let's take us through. So you arrived in Edmonton. Unfortunately,
Yep.
we did have a plan. We were hoping to do a live show. Unfortunately, I had some family things that happened, and I went off to Eastern Canada when you arrived in Canada in the West during that time. So we decided to delay and allow you to visit both arenas, check out the crowd, experience what it was like up in here. So maybe give us your experience first in Edmonton. What was it like up here? Besides, it was still chilly, even though we thought it was summer. But the game itself, what was it like?
Well, I arrived to the pilot telling me negative 19 degrees Celsius, which was a little bit, again, I was a little perplexed. And I walk through the Edmonton airport. I see the Oilers thing on the baggage claim, and I'm like, okay, this is a very interesting place to come. I mean, I can tell this city really cares about its hockey. And so then, yeah, in the town, took the nice little 30-minute commute into Edmonton. Met up with Pavel and his buddies that night at Home and Away Bar. I think we were the only 5 people in this entire bar, but it was amazing. I got a chance to watch. Steven Stamkos scores 500th goal. It wasn't in person, but it was on TV at least with the guys. So we were just chit-chatting, having a few beers, watching hockey. So that was great. And then, yeah, so that was a great. We skated on ice. We took some pictures of ice in front of Rogers Place. Snuck into the arena for a little bit, so that was awesome. Shush, we'll keep those our secret.
Legally.
So let me guess who spearheaded sneaking into the arena. Did it start with a J?
I'm not going to name any names. I don't let my sources out on this show, so we'll talk about that offline. But no, it was great. And then I think the next day I woke up and I had a little itinerary, so I went out and visited the city. And I really love your guys' little not segues, I guess you're like walkways between the buildings.
The pedway,
beautiful.
Yeah, downtown.
Definitely helped out the situation a couple bits. But yeah, no, it was great. It was a beautiful day. Really great to go down there and walk by the arena. And so then, yeah, it was about 4:30 or so. I'm heading out towards, going the little walkways. And I look down and I see Vasilevsky coming out of the JW. And I had dinner reservations at like 5. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll swing down. It's not till 5. I got 30 minutes to kill. And I got a picture with Brandon Hagel, Victor Hedman, Braden Point, and Sergachev. And then Point got a nice little puck signed by Braden Point over here. So added this to the collection. And then I was supposed to have this really cute blonde girl to take to the game. Well, that didn't work out. I'm not saying anything against Alberta girls, but hey, it is what it is. Fine. And one of Pavel's buddies, Jake, ended up going to the game, and it was a great time. Even though the Lightning lost, it was a beautiful arena, really clean around the stadium. Actually, it really made me feel like I was back in Tampa. Just the whole little section you guys have there right before the arena. But overall, amazing arena.
And you were in the lower bowl on the Tampa Bay scoring side twice, or Oilers scoring side?
I was on the Tampa Bay shooting twice side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So it was. I'm still perplexed by your guys' whole lottery system and their the 50-50 raffle. That's a whole thing we can talk about later. I've never seen it hit. I've never seen it hit $1 million plus, and it's the only arena.
So
I'm still perplexed.
So the interesting piece, and it's the only one that's actually doing that in all the Canadian teams. So normally the 50-50 was always, before the pandemic, it was always in the arena only. And generally it would be between 30 and 55, maybe 70,000 occasionally. But then during the pandemic, they let it go online and sports betting came in and it was allowed to stay. And I think it's because you can get so many tickets for the price. And so long as you live in Alberta, you can, with your IP address, you're able to buy your tickets. Yeah, it's they definitely can do a lot with that lottery foundation. People say how much that gets done for the community, but man, something gets done for the people putting that on too. They're making a pretty dime.
They do. Yeah. But Albertans like to donate, and you can definitely see a difference in Edmonton versus Calgary. So you talked a little about Edmonton. What would you say the atmosphere was like? And then once that's done, kind of transition to the same questions about Calgary.
Let's do it.
Was like there.
Yeah. So I only got a few "Hey Americans, sit down," a few times in Edmonton. No, I would say they were pretty respectful. There was a group of guys that were Toronto fans in front of us, so they were joking because I think Jake was having a good time bantering with me, especially when Edmonton was up a couple goals. But the overall atmosphere was really great. I think the band and the ice girls going around around the arena before the game, and the energy that you could feel in that arena. It was also an ESPN game, so it was pretty lively atmosphere that night. But I think for a Thursday night game, I would say that arena was rocking pretty hard. So it was an overall really, other than the outcome, it was a great welcome experience to Canada.
So I mean, obviously the outcome, if the Tampa had won, it makes it always more exciting for a fan of Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, the price of beer. Now, you're obviously paying in Canadian dollars now, which helps, but let's pretend it's not Canadian, because actually Zylstra is on a show and has been traveling. I'm getting the prices of beer. So most of the places you've been, how did it compare for the price of beer?
I didn't necessarily do the conversion, but I did spend a lot of money in Canada because my thought process was like, this is going to convert to US dollars and this is going to be so much cheaper. So I spent a lot more money than I anticipated. I looked at my credit card bill. I was like, nah, that was definitely not the right mind thought of thinking of this trip. So I will I don't know what the exact currency, the exact, price exactly was, but I mean, I drank my way through beer in both cities, so it wasn't too expensive.
All right, well, take us down to Calgary. Tell us the experience down there.
Yep. So I woke up slightly hungover again after that game, and I hopped on my little, the little jet, the little Cessna, I feel like it was. Actually got a chance to meet John Buccigross from ESPN. They were on the flight down, because they were commentating the game in Edmonton. They were going down to, so he was actually sitting about 2 rows ahead of me, and so we were chit-chatting at the airport. Nice guy. It's fascinating hearing them talk about all the matchups that they want actually in the playoffs, just from an ESPN ratings perspective. Very fascinating. But yeah, got down to Calgary, another beautiful city. It seemed like there was a lot more to do from a nightlife perspective in Calgary than there was maybe in Edmonton. But yeah, no, I went down to 17th Ave. I went up to the Calgary Tower. My favorite movie was Cool Runnings from back in the day, so it kind of had a little jive up there. And then it was a matinee game on Hockey Day in Canada. So like, what better experience to watch hockey than Hockey Day in Canada? And so I got down there. Game was the arena. They have happy hour. That's how you start getting drunk in an arena way too early in the day. I mean, I guess you have to make up for it somehow, like with the arena and where it's in the state of mind. But like, I walked in, I was like, let me just get a beer, and they're like, it's happy hour. I was like, let me get 2 vodka sodas, a beer, and a bag of peanuts. I'm like, it's 11:30. The game starts at 1. I'm like, this is not good, guys. Not good.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, again, I sat lower bowl in Calgary on the Calgary shoot twice side. So basically maybe like 4 seats over from the Lightning bench. And I think the flame, I will say the flame reminded me of the lightning coils in Tampa. So the blaring of the flame I thought that was pretty neat. Overall arena doesn't compare to Edmonton. Fans were about the same, heckling. I think they're a little salty over 2004. I don't know why, but they're still salty.
There's more of a rivalry. There is more of a rivalry, right? Just because of those types of meetings.
Yeah, because of that 04 Cup, they're definitely a little bit more salty. So I don't know, but the casino outside was really nice. I took $100 out. I thought it was $100. It was $100 Canadian dollars. So I started doing currency exchange. But no, honestly, it was a great time in both cities. What was really fascinating was meeting so many Tampa Bay fans in both cities that had been traveling in, just like myself.
Wow.
From all different cities. They had been in Seattle. They had been in Vancouver for the games prior to that. Yeah. And there was people that I saw in Calgary on the concourse that I had seen at home and away bar on the night before in Edmonton. So really, really awesome experience. And just the hockey community traveling together to see games. It's a fascinating experience.
That's so interesting. Okay, so a question here we got coming in. So Dilster wanted to ask this a lot earlier, but I wanted you to get through. So which arena that you visited? Now, how many approximately have you visited so far? Around 14?
So actually I'm currently 17.
17, okay. Oh,
well, you're not even listening, Evan.
Some people actually have to run the show instead of just sit there, dazed and confused on weed. You've been eating your gummies, buddy. Okay, anyway, so the question is, what arena so far has the rockinest party atmosphere? And of course, Zill's asking you not to be biased because you are a Tampa fan.
Yeah.
So I would say just remove Tampa Bay out of the equation.
No,
but they might be good though. Who knows?
No, I actually think. The overall best. A really great atmosphere both inside the arena and then just literally right outside was Nashville. Honestly, Nashville. You got the country music blaring between. They got the actual live bands between the between periods. You're literally a step from Broadway. You leave the stadium. You leave the arena after the hockey game, and you're right there back in the party scene. So it's just one big party, all right there. Okay. Honestly, Nashville was probably one of my more rocking party atmospheres.
Okay, so Ray, he's the first time on your. Hey, welcome, Ray. So you wrote up there earlier that he thinks Columbus is up there. Have you been to Columbus yet?
I have been to Columbus. Columbus was pretty good. The only thing I didn't watch the game. The game was during the COVID year, so. I didn't get a chance to see Columbus in its full entirety. I'll say our bar, literally right outside of the Blue Jackets arena, is a great hockey bar. Literally everything hockey right before the game. Great bar. No free ads. So.
Okay. Now, Ray, you're also saying you think Scotiabank is probably the best. Now, are we talking Scotiabank in Ontario?
Yeah, in Toronto, the one where the Maple Leafs play. Scotiabank.
Yeah. So, question, Ray, we want to know, are you being biased? Are you actually a Leafs fan? Because you might be very upset at the Tampa Bay Lightning still, because you knew you were hoping to get out of the first round last year, and it didn't work for you. So, also, hi to Kyle tonight. Hey, Kyle. Kyle is a Bruins fan, by the way. He runs one of the podcasts over at the Sports Empire network there, Sean. And he's always pushing his Bruins. We're going to get him on the show sometime. So, Kyle, have you been to other arenas, and which do you think is the rockiest that you got out there? So, hey, let's ask a question from a seating. So out of all the arenas you've been to, just for the best, what you consider the feel, the seating, the feeling of the atmosphere, the warmth of where you are, what have you found, say, your top two?
Wow. Yeah. So as you guys know, I usually, like I said, I'm part of this whole journey is I'm always sitting lower ice. I try to avoid the crowd up in the upper deck just because I probably wouldn't survive. But no, I'd say from an overall seating perspective, that's a tough one. I'd say. I think.
Okay, let me change the question. Let's change it. Which ones would you definitely consider on the bottom?
Buffalo.
Buffalo, really?
Buffalo.
Oh.
And I was sitting. I mean, I was sitting on the glass front row, and it was my I could feel my shake or my seat shaking just every time even anyone's got near us. I'm just like I'm probably going like. And one of my buddies that he goes to a few of these games, and he's like, this glass is going to break at some point. I just have a feeling. But no, Buffalo was probably I would say the shakiest seats we've sat in.
Okay.
I will say so. The best ones I will say. I think St. Louis actually had, we were in the seats that we were in St. Louis. They were the club seats. They had girls. They had the beverage people coming down. I had 2 beers in my hand. Hey, are you ready for another one? Just handed me another one free of charge. So those were some really great seats. Just really comfortable. St. Louis, the Jameson Club. If you ever get a chance, really great seats.
Okay, so maybe St. Louis has tricked you by giving you too many beers to make you actually say you're like, man, I got to promote these guys. I wonder if in Buffalo it's the seating because it's so multi-purpose and they take them in and out a lot. Maybe that's why you're finding they would rumble.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's an older arena, Key Bank. And yeah, I mean, it's probably, more of a multi-purpose arena. So that probably has to do something with it, especially those lower seats are not necessarily built into the actual arena themselves. They're kind of there on the little platform, the black platform that's down there by the ice. So.
Interesting. Okay. Well, hey, so let me just bring up something interesting. Now, have you ever been to, you haven't been to Vancouver yet, have you?
I have not been to Vancouver yet, no.
Okay. You've been to Vancouver. Okay. Well, we'll talk about Vancouver a little bit later. So we have a suggestion. You might really enjoy this one. So I'm going to add it up onto our stream here. So everyone, if you are interested in the Heritage Classic, the original was in Edmonton. Commonwealth on the brick field will now be an ice arena again. It's been going to be between the Flames and the Oilers. This is the jersey that they're going to be working a version off of the old Edmonton Mercuries. So interesting enough. But I suggest that would be a good game because I don't know about you, Sean, but I know Zylstra. No, Zylstra's my sister, and she's got me convinced that I need to go down to see the Classic, the Winter Classic, watching Vegas out in Seattle. So over at the field. So man, that might be a time we can meet up if you're interested in that.
So that would be a good question, Sean, just to add to that. Would you consider going to one of the Winter Classics, Heritage Classics, like one of the outdoor games that they have every year at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely would. Whether it's hockey in general, it doesn't, I mean, obviously I still have this whole journey, which is mostly around, it's all around Tampa. But yeah, I mean, if you guys are paying and you guys are paying for the beers and tickets, I mean, I'm all about it. Hey, I'll book an airline ticket up and we'll call it a day.
Well, one thing that was mentioned, I was going to say earlier, so Zill did bring up about best hot dogs. So she's recently been traveling to ECHL, AHL arenas, and NHL arenas. And it looks to, and we're going to have her back on the show sometime down the road and talking about it. But hot dogs, do you buy hot dogs at these places?
Not really. It's not like my go-to choice of food at the, I mean, if I'm super, had a few beers, maybe, but it's not like that. Like, it's not that go-to kind of thing. No.
All right. Okay. So let me ask you then. So you've been following the Tampa Bay Lightning. You're a big fan. So they're 32-15-1 this year. They're in third place in the Atlantic. It's one of the hardest, if not the hardest division. It looks like you're going to face Toronto. What are your thoughts on this season so far on the team? How far can they go in the playoffs? And can they potentially become an elite dynasty and go for another final and potentially win a cup with the core that they have established? And as an aside, I know I'm throwing a lot at you. Trade deadline. What are you doing if you're Julian Brisebois?
Pavel, I knew you were going to ask me some of these questions, so I came prepared with notes. Okay, I got some notes over here. No, honestly, yeah, I know it looks like Toronto's going to be another first round playoff matchup, which is always going to be a tough one. I mean, we got a great series last year. I think last year was a little going back to the Cup last year was great. But no, I think Toronto is always going to be a formidable opponent. I would love to keep them keep them in the first round for another year. It seems like
It's my favorite playoff rivalry. The Maple Leafs versus the first round.
Yeah, 32-15-1, 8-2 in the last 10. There's 2 losses I attended, so I'm not sure how. Basically, I think I'm starting to not have to want to go to games currently. I think right now I look at the guys that they're playing. Actually just said I want home ice advantage in some shape or fashion. The Lightning are coming off 12 straight wins at home. It's a franchise record right now. So hopefully still keep that after the All-Star break. I think Toronto, we're like 3 or 4 games. I think we're 2 games back, but they've got 4 games on us right now. So that's going to be a neck and neck. I think Boston's too far ahead. I think we're going to probably that 2-3. Obviously, Toronto's going to be that first round opponent. But again, it's going to be who gets that 2-3 seed, who gets that first, who gets the home ice advantage for potential game 7.
So interesting enough, I checked the numbers of percentage is at 67% that the Lightning and the Leafs will face off in the first round. I mean, that is insane because you got 2 teams, really good teams that will be facing off in the exact same spot. But you know what it makes for? Rivalry. It makes for great rivalry. Leafs fans must hate the Lightning almost as bad as the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, last year was a year that I really thought, it looked like that Toronto was gonna maybe pull it out. But I think that speaks to the volume of the Lightning. Everything that this team's been through over the last 3 years of going to the Cup, and all the playoff experiences this team has, that grit and determination. That's something that Toronto doesn't quite have right now. So
it was that third line: Nick Paul, Brandon Hagel. Those guys really came out and played. They got traded for it, but they made an impact, right?
And Pavel, you make a great point. It's each of the last 2-3 years. Whether it was Yzerman or Brisebois has made crucial pickups at the trade deadline that have impacted this team and that run for the Cup. And so, who is it going to be this year? I don't know. I do think some defensemen, a little extra depth on the defensemen. Could be there. I know Cal Foot's kind of a possibility of maybe moving him out, trying to maybe bring back Luke Shen. I don't know. I think I looked at our salary cap today. I think we got like $700,000 in salary cap. So it's limited with what we can do right now, I think, in terms of moving some players around.
Have you heard around Tampa anything that they could make a push to try to bring Shen back?
I haven't really heard too much on terms of. Watching Lightning games, the broadcaster is always talking about how much he would. He was loved by Tampa. He's still loved by the fans. He makes a smart move, especially with some of these other guys. I could see that being, but I don't know if any hey, this deal for this deal or XYZ. But I know Cal Foot's not in great footing. Right now within the organization. So I think that could maybe be a possible move. We'll see.
Something that I found very interesting too, early in the season. I was just talking about a few weeks ago. I hadn't done the most recent, but Vasilevsky's save percentage was down. He was dropping below the 900 mark, which is unheard of for him. Now he's sitting around the 918 mark again. It's this that guy just needs to have 5-6 good games, and it changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's. That's why he's the big cat. That's why he's future Hall of Famer. He's our. He's our savior. When the team's not playing necessarily well, it's great to rely on a solid goaltender like Vazzy. Day in and night, or night in and night out. So.
Well, and let's you brought him up earlier. Let's talk about Stamkos and his impact on that organization and being the C for that team. And you mentioned, you alluded to seeing him score 500 goals. It's very hard to score goals in the NHL, let alone that many, and everyone's talking now about how Ovi, matching and beating Gretzky. But if Stamkos wasn't injured, could he not have scored 600, 700 plus goals in his career?
I mean, that's the crazy aspect. I mean, last year was his first season. He had 100 points in his career last season. He's now on pace for I think about 98 points right now, based on where we're sitting at right now, based on points per game or points per game. And I think he could have this could be back-to-back 100 points, which you love to see after everything he went through with the injuries, and people were starting to kind of doubt, was he going to be the guy in Tampa? I mean, this was the guy we
Potentially
drafted.
trading him.
There it was. So I really love seeing that for him. I mean, yeah, you got Kucherov as well. I mean, he's on point, on par for another 100-point season. Again, there we go. Per everyone staying healthy. But then, yeah, you alluded to him, Nick Paul. Him and Hagel are probably some of my favorite guys to watch. The effort that those guys and the speed. If you have not watched Hagel, the speed and the effort that the young man puts in, it's unbelievable.
So I just want to come back. You were talking about, of course, with the broadcasters on the plane there and having the trip and some of the cool connections that you're able to make when you're driving down. So something interesting that just came out in the viewership. Right now, in the second year of the deal, it's down 22%. So last year, we were sitting just under 500,000 viewers on an average hockey game, right? That's on ESPN and where is it? ESPN and Bally, basically, with Turner and Disney. Let's just call it that. Those are the big boys. And now this year we're sitting around 373. So there's obviously some reasons for this. Most people are going to make an assumption. Most people in Canada are going to make the assumption, because it's going to be Americans, of course, viewing most of those games. What are the reasons you think that maybe some of the enticement from last year is not there, that there's less people watching?
I don't know. I think in a way, maybe year one, ESPN coming back. I think some people maybe thought more of either the theatrics of how the broadcast would go, or just I think, again, you go from the NHL network to this, to the ESPN. I just don't know. I think people were interested in seeing it, and then I think maybe people just weren't as impressed with the production that they put on in terms of a broadcast standpoint. I don't know. I mean,
one of the things I always wonder about is I know personally, we talk about this lots in general conversations, and any of you guys out there, just put it in the comments why you think that viewership could be down in the US a little bit on their stations. But I wonder, could rivalries be a thing? For example, it's great, the rivalry between Toronto and Tampa, but a lot of Americans do want to see Americans versus Americans. There's just more for example, it's a big deal when the Panthers and the Lightning face off.
Yeah.
Right? There's something that's built, but do they do enough with that? Should they play more games?
Yeah, and also it made me think about, I don't know if the whole ESPN Plus and how that's streaming and blackouts and how all of that's working, I mean, because I know I get on the message boards and everyone's always, complaining about, oh, well, we can't watch the game in this market because of XYZ. And so I don't know if because of ESPN and the way that they've kind of, put a little hold on the network situation, I don't know if that could be playing into some of the local fans that would maybe tune into the local television and watch the game. Now they can't necessarily because of a blackout or XYZ. So I don't know how that's impacting that, but I mean, yeah, it could also have an impact on rivalries. And it was, again, interesting putting, ESPN, we got the ESPN guys, they were like, if we could find a way to put Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, which was funny because they're like, if we could put a way to put them more on ESPN down in America, so Canadian hockey down in America, they were talking about trying to, they're like, oh, we want to put those guys on TV every night and night in, night in and night out. So it's kind of fascinating to listen to that perspective too.
I think it gives entertainment, right? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I would also say that it comes down to the NHL and the onus is on their scheduling. I know the scheduling has kind of been wonky this year, but for example, and not to bring it to Canada, but Calgary versus Edmonton, Battle of Alberta, everybody loves that wherever you are. There was 3 games this year, whereas last year I believe there was 8 or 7 games. So, to go from that to 3, that's not a good thing to do. And, when a team struggles like a Florida right now, who, they're picking it up in the last little bit, but they're not as competitive. Last year, I think, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago when it was Florida versus Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was one of the best series I ever watched. Right. And again, it's a matter of you have to promote the game in a certain way. But if you're not going to promote hockey, and then, people get down on players for being personable. And I think it was Stamkos on 32 Thoughts talked about Kucherov's interview and getting silly after the win versus Montreal. You need more of that. You need personalities like basketball, right? Or like the NFL. But hockey seems to be very reserved. So they're very wary about being personable, right? And, it's changing, but it's a slow, arduous process. So,
it is interesting because when you talk, I think rivalries definitely is one of them. But I wonder if they've just made it so hard with the blackouts. If we go back to Chicago for years under Bill, right? The words it was always blackout, blackout, blackout. Fans were angry about it, and you missed out on all those new young people getting to know the game of hockey around there. Even though that they definitely love their hockey, but they have a lot of other sports that they can go to. And I know what you're talking about, Sean, when you're talking about it on the boards and all over in the chats and anywhere you go, the people are like, well, how the heck? And they see them, they like, I got the network, I got this, I got Bollies. And they're all trying to find ways to get around, and they cannot watch their favorite team play in their own place, right? In your own state. You should be able to do that. And maybe there needs to be more complaining, because last year there was a lot of that going on, and you wonder, was there a lot of subscribers this year that didn't resubscribe because they just weren't going to do it again?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I saw Bally's is going bankrupt, or I thought I saw something about that. I was like, oh, that's kind of, it's it's just interesting to see how all of that plays into that factor and what's going on in terms of the viewership. So no, it's crazy.
Well, and I think the storylines, they are lacking the storylines, like you were just saying with Kucherov, Pavel. The story, like, why are we not high? I remember I love Jeremy Roenick, not because I maybe liked him as a player. He was controversial. Brett Hall, controversial. No offense, Sean, but Americans are really good at having a lot of charisma and stirring things up. In Canada, we don't care if they're boring like Crosby and McDavid, right? Lemieux, Gretzky. I mean, they're terrible interviews. They're great hockey players, but they're terrible interviews.
I think with Canada, or hockey needs like a Stephen Smith. Like, he's just like powered up, says the most silliest things, And he did a little bit at the beginning when ESPN first, when the whole deal happened. But that was it, and you want to see more of that. You see it between Charles Barkley and Shaq, who talk through NBA on TNT. And they're bantering and calling each other out. And, you don't see that between a Chris Chelios and a Mark Messier, who said, oh, yeah, I hit you back then in this game. And that's it. You got me good. And then, very pleasant, respectful.
Yeah, but I think you bring up a great point. I think it made me think about one of the things I noticed even when ESPN started with hockey going back to last year, and the way that they handled, I think it was the schedule release. It was late to even from the very beginning, ESPN, you could just tell, we got hockey back, but were they really invested? Were they really interested in hockey even from the beginning? Because the schedule release was late. They did a terrible job of how they did it on the opening, the first season. I don't know. I think, sometimes you watch highlights on ESPN and it's like, are they really showing it up? Are they really trying to get more people invested in hockey, or is it part of the package and, they're just making money and, they're just hoping that it pans out and people want to come watch them? I don't know. But I think, maybe it could be a little bit of both.
So you've been watching a lot of hockey, and I want to get two of your thoughts quick, and Evan, you as well. I want to know first your most surprised team this year, of what, team that you're like, wow, I can't believe they're doing that, whatever it may be, whether in terms of standings, a player, or on that team, and then the most disappointing. So, Sean, I'll let you go first. Most surprising or unique team this year?
I don't know if I would call it a surprise, but I am really loving the Seattle Kraken. I'm loving the Seattle Kraken. I think it's great to see them kind of having the success that Vegas had. They're doing in year 2. Also, I still got to root for my Tampa boy, Yanni Gord. Yanni, we love you. But yeah, no, I just love, and I think that's, I think that's a team that I'm fascinating to watch. I love how they play. I think it's good for the game of hockey, and I think it's just a fun team to watch.
All right, Evan, you?
I'm going to actually go with the Seattle Kraken because, they have the potential. I don't think they're going to do it to win the division. Excuse me, but should they actually everyone thought that they're going to be like a typical expansion team. And like last year, they would be like that for the next 2-3 years still. There was not a lot. The way that team was drafted and put together, it was not like Vegas. So, yeah, that's been the biggest surprise for me. And I've been quite actually happy about what's happening out there.
Yeah, very well.
I tried to avoid putting Boston into that comment because I just don't want. I can't talk about them right now. So,
well, I was gonna say Boston just because a lot of people picked Ottawa over them to drop in the Atlantic, right? And and I'm also gonna say Buffalo. I think finally that team is gelling and they're still playing meaningful games. It's almost February, or it is February. My time is off, but they're still playing meaningful games and they're competitive. So, how about Sean? Your most disappointing team?
I think a team that I thought would play a lot better, and it has not. And it goes back to a boy from Calgary, an old Calgary guy. I really thought Columbus, the Blue Jackets, would play a lot better this year than where they are. I thought adding Johnny Gaudreau, I thought they had some pieces that I thought they would at least be a playoff team. To see them at 34 points right now, possibly maybe they're in the running for Bedard. I don't know, but that is unbelievable to see the Columbus Blue Jackets sitting where they are at this point. The Coyotes are a better team right now than the Blue Jackets. Let's just put that out there.
All right, Evan?
I don't know.
Well, I'm just going to tap into, just if anyone didn't know, that Bedard, who will be the number one and is a generational player, just scored his 44th goal of the season in Calgary right now tonight.
He's selling out that building for that game.
The building is sold out in the Calgary Saddle Dome to come watch Connor Bedard. Connor freaking Bedard. That guy is amazing. Okay, so my team that I'm going to put in there is actually Anaheim, because they actually do have quite a few pieces. They got about 4 good quality offensive players. Their goalies are not as bad as that they're appearing. Their defense is okay on their top 3. It's the lower 3. And I guess I expected them to probably be sitting right now around 45, 47 points, another 5 wins. They still weren't going to be winning, but to see them on the bottom, really, really they shouldn't be competing with Columbus and Chicago for Connor Bedard right now. Pavel, what do you see?
I'm going to say Vancouver just because, similar to Columbus, they're not as bad, but it's been a dumpster fire, both on the ice and off the ice, more so off the ice. But on the ice, it's just been all over the place. They had that record at the beginning of the season, the first 10 games, where they had double leads and they kept losing. There you go, making faces at them. And they just could not get it going for whatever. And I think they lost the first 10 in a row. And then, there was questions about management, and Jim Rutherford made some comments on After Hours, and you just didn't know what it was. And given what the Pacific is, you thought, they can compete for a wild card or third place. Nope. And so they've been a bit of a disappointment. And then, the Horvat trade, which just happened. I guess we can get Sean's take on it, but just all over the place, picking Miller over Horvat. But yeah, kind of disappointing.
Okay, so before we get Sean's take on Horvat, because we're going to keep you on, Sean, you'll wrap up the show with us here. We got a few little things here. I want to go to something. This is interesting. So as you know, Bruce Boudreau had his last game, and they were still going. And even when Rick Tocchet came in, you go, Bruce, there it is, right? Well, someone sent him. So anyway, they sent him a jersey specifically for him from a fan. So I found this really, really cool. Is that not something to remember, that you were still loved in spite of how the team dealt with the dynamics of everything there? I think that's so cool. So
now, if you look at that image, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, does 15 represent 15 minutes of fame that he had?
Okay. Anyway, let's stay away from the conspiracy.
Lordy.
Nope. All right.
So anyway, and we got some in there. Zill's out. Yeah, Columbus, they believe, is the largest disappointment. Zill's trying to talk about fighting. She was on a show that was one of our biggest hits, and so she always wants to talk about fighting because she thinks it'll help our ratings.
Well,
It
speaking
definitely
of fighting,
does.
there was a lot of teams that we thought were battling it out for Bo Horvat's services. What did you think of the trade, Sean?
Well, I mean, I thought you were going to take this in a whole different direction. I was going to say, honestly, the chippiness I saw in both games against Calgary and Edmonton. I mean, you don't see too many periods that start with a fight, and Pat Maroon trying to go after, a guy about half his size. That's a whole other story for another night. But, I think the Horvat trade. I mean, obviously, you're trying to get rid of, again, it's a firing squad basically going up there in Vancouver right now at this point. I mean, Islanders get a nice pickup. I don't know where are the Islanders sitting. I mean, I think they kind of
two
need
points out of a playoff spot in the Metro, so they're
Okay.
neither are a playoff team.
Well, yeah, but to be fair, they are sitting. They got a couple games in hand, and they are sitting about 7 points out of the last wild card spot.
I thought it was 2. Okay.
Yeah, they're at 55 points right now, and the lowest coming in is at 62 with the Rangers. So the Rangers are their closest that they'd be fighting for, and the Rangers have 3 games in hand, and then it moves up to 68. So.
No, Pittsburgh is in the second wild card spot at 57.
Pittsburgh has 3 games in hand with 57. The Islanders have 55. I'm looking at it right now on the TSN app.
I'm looking at it at the NHL app.
Well, maybe the NHL app's wrong, buddy. And what can I say? They have 55 points.
I don't really know to comment on the trade per se, but I did find it very funny the other day that I read the NHL All-Star Committee was having difficulties because he was an All-Star for the Western Conference.
Yeah,
but is he going to play on the Western Conference, or is he now going to play for New York in the Eastern Conference? So
representing Vancouver.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's like your ex-girlfriend who's still wearing your hoodie.
So interesting. In the past, so there has been trades. I forget who it was, but what they did is they just gave him a neutral jersey, like Western Conference, Eastern Conference. So, like, to me, he shouldn't rep the Vancouver Canuck jersey.
No.
He should just rep the Western Conference jersey, wear it during the skills competition, and then you don't have what you have. And listen, why can't you have your new team's logo, the Islanders, and still play on the Western Conference? It's a flippin' all-star game. Okay, so let me talk about the all-star game here. We don't have a lot of time. I want to do 2 things. I want to talk about the all-star game, some of the greatest moments, whether it's actually been a game that you guys saw over all the years you've ever watched all-star games, the skills and or the games. And then the second thing I want to talk about is actually the old Northlands Coliseum has been decided to be torn down officially in Edmonton. And a lot of people have been talking around our city in Edmonton about history, of course. And it got me thinking, what are some of the most iconic games or stories that have come out of some arenas that you've been to? So I want to do that after we hit on this piece that I just said. And what was the first one I want to talk about again?
The most memorable all-star story.
I'm joking. Memorable all-star. Okay. So what do you got, moment. Sean? What can you think about for a moment or a game or something? It doesn't matter what it was that stood out that you will always remember about All-Star Weekend.
I don't know if I necessarily have one that really stands out. I think a few years back, when Tampa held the All-Star game down in Tampa, I think seeing, again, Tampa, a Florida city, not a lot of people expect us to be a hockey place, and then to have an all-star game down there, just what it meant for the community to see all these all-stars, all the greatest talent in hockey to come into a place that not a lot of people expect to be, a hockey place. I think it was great. I think it was just great for the community to see what a weekend like this can do for for a city. So,
okay, Pavel.
Yeah, similar to Sean, I can't really think of what it was. I did enjoy the old East versus West competition. I thought that was pretty cool, and I did enjoy those jerseys. More recent memory, I did enjoy what Trevor Zegras did dressing up as the dodgeball character and scoring in the skills competition. I thought that was pretty cool. And I forget the female athlete, but she skated and almost beat Connor McDavid and Matt Barzell's time for fastest skater, I think it was. And this was about 2-3 years ago. Was it Haley?
No, it wasn't Haley Wickenhausen. No.
I'm trying to think who it was.
Or was it? No, it wasn't Cameo Ferraro. If you guys know it, Put it in the comment section. You can probably get it. You guys are quick and fast. You watch. Pavel's going to go on to beat the people going online. Okay, so for me, it is Mario. See, I told you. You don't let our fans get in on this stuff. You got to quit stealing all the thunder from them.
We got to get Liam McGuire back on. He knows everything. Oh,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, poor Liam. I felt so bad. We bring in the #1 NHL historian, and I ask him a question that he doesn't know the very first thing. Okay, so my historic moment is 1988 All-Star Game. I like West versus East. I'm the same. It was 6 points by Mario Lemieux. It was an incredible game. I mean, the guy just played around like he was playing with little boys, and that included watching him play against Gretzky. But this is what was interesting. His career, he had 10 All-Star games because there was a lot that he couldn't go to. He was injured or something was up. 23 goals in those 10 games that he played in All-Star games. Amazing. A feat that probably even in an All-Star game. But I thought that Pavel was going to say John Scott because you talked about that.
I do like John Scott, and I thought that was a pretty fun thing. But I think the NHL is, again, my conspiracy hat has rigged it this year again, where the voting doesn't necessarily reflect what people want. I will say it does come to mind because we've been talking about it. It's not necessarily at the All-Star game, but revolves around it, is when Alexander Ovechkin decided not to go a couple of years ago and get fined a game because he just wanted to spend time with family, right? And so they penalized him by, suspending him for one game. And Ovechkin's not really known for being suspended, but just kind of silly that they would do that.
Okay, iconic moments in which arena? It could be hockey or outside of hockey, but an NHL arena that is going to be the most, that you'll never forget the memory that is now being torn down currently and or in the past. Something that stands out to you.
Pavel, you start first, Pavel.
For the arena? I mean, a little bit of a backstory. So I am taking my dad to his first NHL game at Rogers Place for the first time. He's not a really big hockey guy, but I figured, hey, I'll treat you. I asked him which team he wants to see. I'm like, you can either see the Rangers or the Flyers. He's just like, just take me on the Tuesday game. So he doesn't even know the teams. He's just like, this is the game. That's my availability. But he was the one that took me to my first NHL game years ago versus the Florida Panthers. And this is when Pavel Bure was still playing for that team. So this is like 2000 and I'm going to say 1 or 2. So years and years ago. And Edmonton ended up losing that game 4-2. But just that experience was really cool at the Coliseum at the time. It was called Skyreach, the company that was owning it here at the Coliseum, as they say. And it was just a cool experience to have that. So now, 20 plus years later, I get to take him to his first game at the new arena, and that'll be kind of a cool memory. The one thing I did like about Coliseum is they did have a bunch of cool posters of events that had happened, where there was artists and musicians like Rod Stewart. Rolling Stones came through, AC/DC, but also memories of hockey and Gretzky and Messier. So,
wow,
Sean, hopefully that gave you enough time to think of an answer.
Yeah, I haven't necessarily been to too many arenas that are, have now been torn down. I guess the closest you could maybe say would be maybe Calgary in a few years. I don't know. I guess Calgary. But I will say, I think, I will I think Calgary, walking around that, you could obviously it's an older arena. Probably be one of the arenas that there could be a new arena in the future. Who knows? We'll see if Calgary can get a deal done. But it was really neat walking around. They had all the Olympic history walking around, walking around that arena. And it was kind of like, oh wow, like I kind of forgot that this was one of the key arenas as part of that whole Olympics back in 88. 88. You got it. I'm giving my Olympic style. Yeah. So. So I think that was probably one of the more neat. And then obviously, I never got to go to the Joe, but I mean, going to Little Caesars, that's probably one I wish I would have got a chance to go. Would have been like Joe Louis, but
Wow. So interesting enough, and of course, you might recall, Sean, that we had, I was going to call you John because of John Davison, the mayor who spearheaded and was chair. We had him on our show to kind of talk about how the deal fell apart. And then later talking about how right now they're basically trying to put the same deal back on the table. They already cost them $10 million plus. And now the new arena is probably going to cost 30 to 50 million more than they originally anticipated with not as much stuff. So I am going to pick the Calgary Saddledome because in 1984, when I moved to Calgary, I got a chance to take a tour through it. It was amazing. I love the fact that they, as bad as it is now, the structure because of the saddle. I think that idea of a saddle for, Stampede Park and everything with the Stampede stuff was really cool. But this is why I will always remember the Calgary Saddledome, because I'm guessing they only got 3 to 4 years left, is because I went to a heavy metal concert night with Judas Priest, Metallica, and Ozzy Osbourne. All three. It was a loaded metal night. And my first actual metal concerts live that I got to at 14 years old. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. But see, back then they didn't need to have stuff from the risers. The guys were just crazy on stage and jumping off stages, and you couldn't even actually see anybody because the screens didn't work very well, but we loved it. So, well, I think we've come to the wrap up our show. Sean, man, it's been awesome having you with us again. We'll see what we can do to, if one of us gets down in your area there, we'll definitely take you up on making a connection there, get out. Let us know, even comment on our page if you can, any of your experiences. If you get out to some of the places, feel free. And even if people want to follow your journey, make sure you just post it. If you throw it on our Facebook page, people will do it. And if you guys aren't familiar, I just wanted to mention, by the way, this was really cool. I was thinking about, you were saying walking in Edmonton there and getting some of the guys and getting their autographs. This is Cole Caulfield. It was just taken on his time off at one of the airports, and the guy actually snapped a quick picture. He actually came up to the kid. They didn't even ask him for it. And I think it's important we humanize this, and this is why. We haven't mentioned anything about Bobby Hull. And Bobby Hull just passed. He's a legend in the game with what he did on ice. There's a lot of stuff, and it bothers me that we need to focus on what he did wrong. His off ice. There is so much that goes on in NFL. There is so much that goes on in NBA and Major League Baseball. There's a couple things that happen in hockey, and it's like, hockey culture is bad. So I feel we need to humanize the people. Before you start ripping them apart, just be respectful during the time of a loss of someone's life. They are people still like everyone else, and their families have to mourn their loss too.
And not to awkwardly, or go ahead, Sean.
No, you got it.
Not to awkwardly segue from this because it's very hard. Cole Caulfield being coached again and having a resurgent season due to a former talented alumni of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Martin St. Louis, one of the best. However, I will say I had a preference for Vincent Lecavalier because I thought he was super fast and talented. He could move on the ice. I mean, I don't know your thoughts on the two players, but final thoughts maybe on Vincent and Martin St. Louis.
Hey, they're both great Tampa guys. I'm always gonna love them. They're in the rafters for a reason. That's all I gotta say. And I was gonna say one team who's with the cup this year. That was gonna be my last thought for you guys.
Okay.
Okay. Can I just say
one team?
Okay, before I say that, I just want to make mention. Martin St. Louis, many people forgot he got his start in Calgary, and he actually played 70+ games. So just always know, there's a hometown Alberta connection from this area. Okay, so go ahead, Pavel. I'll let you go first.
My playoff winner. Ooh, I don't remember who I said at the beginning of the season, but I have to go back.
I don't know if we did it.
Memory is hazy. You know what? I'm going to be a homer. I'm going to say Edmonton Oilers. I think they're going to go for it all. I think McDavid's going to finally lift his cup.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be an Oiler-Bruin final this year, but the Bruins are going to win. What do you got? What do you got, Sean?
I don't know. I do think Boston is looking really good this year. I hate to say that. 3 cups is it might be time to let someone else in. I don't know, but at the end of the day, I'm still gonna always root for the Lightning. So hopefully it's Tampa. But yeah, I think Boston could be that team, unfortunately.
President's trophy curse. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's what Zill said last week too, right? When we were talking about it. All right, well, there it is, man. Oh, hey, love it. Hey, Zill, great. There you go. We got to get on shirts. 2 guys. There it is. There it is. Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, typical.
There you go.
Hey, love it. Look at these babies. Well, hey, thanks again so much. As always, we should be called 2 Guys in Overtime because we do it every single week. We go into overtime. Thanks again, Sean.
Mark that saying, otherwise someone's gonna beat us to the punch.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for joining us all. Make sure that you look on all of our sites, subscribe, follow us, Sports Empire Network. You can follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, check us out on Twitter for everything going on. Our Twitter handles are, Pavel.
It's Rev and Ev or hockey_2 on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram at Color Avenue, but it's the Canadian spelling, not the American. Sorry, Sean.
It's okay.
If you follow him on Instagram, you will notice he has a lot of cats. That is why he is called the Cat, not because he has Felix the Pod fan, the Cat Pod fan's reflexes, but because he has cat-like reflexes to get away from his cat scratching his face every day, man. All right, guys. Well, in the meantime, in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe. Have a good night.
Cheers.
See you guys.